Well, welcome everyone. This is Darlene Willman. I'm here with my co-host April Morris, and welcome to 2014. We are so thrilled to have you join us for our very first Hangout with April and Darlene. And just so that you know, we're going to be broadcasting this Hangout every Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific, which is 1 p.m. Central and 2 p.m. Eastern. So, you can find us anytime by going to hangoutvithaprilanddarlene.com. So let me just go ahead and cover just a few things. So each week we're going to be talking about different topics and bringing on some guest experts for you to meet and get a chance to learn different things. We're going to be talking about all kinds of things. A lot of business ideas, strategies, concepts, but also some personal things. What keeps us motivated. And this is going to be a great way for us to get to know you and you to get to know, April and I. So, well, first of all, let me go ahead and introduce myself. For those of you that don't know who I am, again, my name is Darlene Willman. I'm also known as the Accomplished Coach. I'm celebrating my 12th year in business this month, in fact. In those 12 years, I've created several companies, including a web development company. I started and launched a networking organization. I own also an internet marketing company. I have a coaching practice. I have a speaking career, and as well, I'm also the founder of the U.S. Small Business Conference. It's an annual conference that travels throughout the nation. Plus, I'm the publisher of Accomplished Magazine and the talk show host for Accomplished Radio Show, which is now close to over 80,000 listeners. So we're really excited about that. In addition, I've been in 5 books and published over 100 articles, which has now been reprinted in over 300 publications worldwide. And the reason why I'm sharing this isn't to impress you. It's to give you a snapshot of what I've accomplished and who I am. And it took me 12 years to figure out that I can only achieve so much by myself. So in 2013, April and I decided to join forces and become official business partners. So April, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, yay! uh, okay, I'm April Morris. I'm the founder of the Freedom Jumper blog. I'm also an award-winning entrepreneur and a speaker, as well as a business coach. I got my start several years ago when I invented a product, got it launched. It was sold in stores all across the United States and other countries. I was so blessed to be featured in, a lot of media, print media, but also television, a lot of TV interviews, such as ABC's TV show Shark Tank, Fox News, NBC Daytime, the Los Angeles Times, and a ton of others. Was able to win several awards, like Inspiring Woman of the Year from the Indiana Fever, presented that for me, and several others. And then I've also built my own tribe, a following, blog subscribers, and all of my social media combined have reached and exceeded over 800,000 people. And I have a YouTube channel that gets more than 22,000 video views per month. So I wanted to share just a couple things about myself as well. And again, like Darlene said, it's not to impress you, but, we want you to see that, so many different things out there that you're trying to accomplish this year are truly possible. And it took a long time, a lot of studying, a lot of research to make all those things happen, but it works. So I'm going to turn it back over to Darlene.
Great. So, she has just really gone out and accomplished some amazing things, and I'm so grateful that she and I are official business partners. Our
Yay!
company name is Innovate and Accomplish, LLP, and you guys are going to be learning a lot more about that in the next few months and actually just ongoing. So why don't we go ahead and start with just a few announcements. In fact, I just want to make sure that we let you know that we're launching a brand new website, and it's innovateandaccomplish.com, which is obviously the company name. Okay. And there we're going to be featuring all these great hangouts that we're doing every week. And so you'll hear, if you missed any of them or you want to catch up, you'll be able to go there and replay the videos. It's all video-rich content, so there'll be a lot of great things, a lot of training and development, all kinds of different resources that'll be available to you. April and I are actually writing a book right now called How to Attract All the Partners You Can Handle. And that's going to be our free gift to you for getting on our mailing list. And so the book isn't quite ready just yet. We're hoping it'll be released next week. But you can go ahead and, opt into our mailing list now. And as soon as the book is released, we'll make sure we send you a copy so that you can kind of learn a little bit more about what we're doing. So let me go ahead and just tell you a little bit. So when April and I started talking about what we wanted to share with the world, we decided it was time to shatter the competitive mindset and start the partnership revolution. You no longer need to be an outsider and work alone. In fact, we want everyone to be included and feel welcomed. No clicks allowed is what April wants to be promoting out there.
That's right.
And so we're real excited about that. There is a place where you can learn about the Partnership Revolution on the website, and you can, take the pledge and make that decision that you want to start becoming more collaborative and really start to learn how to embrace partnerships, just like what April and I have done. So, well, let's just jump into what today's Hangout is titled, which is Unstoppable Momentum in 2014. So, April, you want to go ahead and talk a little bit and share a little bit about mindset? I think that's one of our biggest things.
Sure. Yeah, that's really what we decided to do for this very first hangout is we want to talk about mindset because we all know that you can have all the strategies that are really great that work for your business, but if you don't have the mindset piece along with that, it's just never going to take off. And that's something that I learned through personal experience, and I know Darlene has as well. So I want to jump in. We're going to be sharing with you some very inspiring stories, personal stories from Darlene and myself that have happened in our own lives that will demonstrate how, overcoming fears and procrastination and, overcoming those things that seem to get in our way from taking massive action. Because if you've got a plan, you've hired a coach, or you've read a few things, but you never actually take consistent action, again, that's one of the things that keeps you from reaching your goals for the end of the year. So I want to start this whole talk today by inviting you to ask yourself a question. This is really a self-assessment. So if you've got pen and paper, you can use that and write this down, but you don't have to. We just want you to think of the answers. So first of all, I want you to think of a goal that you set for yourself in 2013 that didn't work, that you didn't reach. And just go ahead and think about that for a minute. You can also write it down. And as you're thinking about that, think about what was it that kept you from reaching that goal. This is a time that we want to invite you to really, you're private, you don't have to share this with anyone, but really dig deep and be willing to tell the truth about this. Because, as they say, the truth will set you free. And trust me, I learned my lesson on this, and it was so hard for me to finally get to a place of telling the truth, letting go of the fear, blame, and the excuses. So, and this is really just to get you thinking. It's like, what was it that kept you from getting there? And once you do that, really rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. I absolutely made the goal. Or 1 is I didn't make it. Matter of fact, I didn't even do half the things that I said I was going to do it. Did you execute it? How did you do with that, with actual execution? Maybe you read some books. Maybe you've got, a coach, or maybe not. Maybe you were just, you wrote your plan. How did you execute on it? And rate yourself 1 to 10. 10 being I played full out 100%. And 1 being I didn't do anything. I didn't even show up. I said I was going to, but I didn't show up. So go ahead and think about that. You see, I want you to look at those things that you just wrote down and how you evaluated yourself. And not just that, but maybe you didn't write it down, you're just thinking about it. Because how we do anything is how we do everything. And that's something that I learned from reading a book, years ago. And that hit me. That was like a knife right in the chest. I was like, oh, Yeah, that's the truth. I didn't really do what I said I was going to do, and I owned it. You see, when you start to own that, when you take your power back, that actually creates the fuel, the momentum that you need to make a new decision and reset your course. It's January 2nd. Today's the day. You get to choose whether you're going to keep doing what you've been doing and getting the same results over and over again, or you get to choose again. You get to reset your course right now, today. So I want to talk about a couple of things, the things that block progress. And then there's four basic areas that I have found in my own life and in other people's lives that I've coached. I've coached hundreds of people. I know Darlene has as well. And we're going to basically just have a conversation back and forth about each of these things and give you some real tools or steps for how to overcome these blocks that block your progress. You see, when we get a little bit of progress, you take achievable goals, goals that are really that you can accomplish them in baby steps, and you gain momentum by accomplishing a little here. Then you go to the next milestone and the next milestone, and the next thing you know, you've accomplished this big overwhelming goal, but you've chunked it down into bite-sized pieces. That's how you do it. So let's jump right in. I want to talk about progress, or things that block progress. And Darlene I are going to just have a conversation about each one and share some personal stories and things like that around it, and some tips for you. Now, I've got a board here. I'm hoping you can see it. This is new, but I wanted to give you a visual aid. Okay, the first thing is fear. Fear is really what blocks us, one of the major components. It's really the foundation. We're either coming from a place of fear or coming from a place of love. That's really the root of all of our actions and all of the things that happen in our life. So, Darlene, you want to share a little bit about fear, about how that holds people back from gaining momentum and reaching their goals, and how they can change that for 2014?
Well, fear obviously is always going to be the number one reason why people will stop themselves, because they're afraid of failing. I really believe that people don't even make the attempt to try to accomplish things because they don't want to appear like they can't do it. They don't want to, think about all the people out there that have tried to do some really big things and failed. I mean, look at Edison, for example, and, creating the light bulb. How many times did he try and do that, before he finally got one to stay, lit? Or, think about some of the things that have prevented you. I think what we all have is that little voice that's over there going, yeah, but, right? And that's something that we all have to address. So I call it the yeah, but. If you're let's say your inner voice is saying, this year I want to write a book. Well, then you've got that other voice over there going, yeah, but, who are you? You're not an author, right? And so that fear is over there making you question your own abilities. I believe everybody has a book inside them, so everybody can write. And who cares if it's the perfect, thing, the masterpiece? It doesn't have to be a bestseller, but it's great to have your words put on paper, because you know what? Those will be passed on. Those are things that can make an impact for people on a bigger scale. So when you look at fear, what does that stand for? They say it's
False evidence.
evidence appearing real, right?
Yeah.
So you got to look at it. It's really not. It's not true. It's false. So you don't have to really worry about that. And playing it safe is only going to keep you so far. If you really want to play full out this year, you want to go, and make some big accomplishments, you want to achieve some big things, then you're going to have to really put your fear aside and face it head on. Okay, let me give you an example here. The very first year that I decided to do the U.S. Small Business Conference, I was petrified. I mean, just totally petrified, because I kept on thinking to myself, who am I to do a national conference, right? And is this something that I can really do? Can I make this happen? And it was something that I felt passionate about. This was right after um, 2008, when the economy started to crash. This is when I realized that, what, I was so tired of seeing all my friends close their doors. They couldn't stay in business. They couldn't sustain the economy and the way things were happening and falling down. And I was just tired of seeing people going out of business. Was it just everywhere around us? So I thought, what, I believe that small business is truly the backbone of America, of our economy. If small businesses band together and support one another and teach one another how to grow and to advance, then we can pull ourselves out of this recession. So I went on this mission, and I thought, what, I'm going to bring together some of the best people that I know. I'm going to host this, this 2-day conference. My first one was 2 days. And it was one of those, it was very scary. I lost a lot of sleep. I was like constantly thinking about it. And I actually had a lot of naysayers. I had a lot of people that were surrounding me that were trying to poke holes in it. In fact, I had somebody that, did such damage that I almost considered canceling the whole thing. I really thought to myself, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And you know what happened? I started looking at the other side of that yeah but voice. It was the other one that said, who am I not to do this conference? Who am I not to bring this to life? And if I don't do it, who will? Can I sit back and wait for somebody to do this for me? Or am I just going to go for it? And I tell you, I really wasn't even sure how I was going to pull the whole thing off. But I went for it and continued. And I had big goals and big dreams of what this was going to look like. I wanted to bring this into different cities. And since then, we've been to Dallas, San Francisco, Indianapolis, where I met April, in fact. And, so for me, it was even scarier to go out on a limb and host a conference in a city that I don't even live in, and knowing nobody. So it really was one of those, you just had to embrace it. You had to look at it and say, no matter what, you just got to keep pushing forward. You just got to keep on bite-size, the pieces down and do the to-dos every day and work towards the end result and keep going and just keep going. So it's all about, again, letting go of those fears that you're going to fail, because guess what? It's okay. If you fail, it's okay. The good news is that without failure, you don't have success. So you really can't measure those two things without having some fear. April, you want to talk a little bit about fear?
Sure, thanks for sharing that. One of the things that I found helpful for me is, number one, you got to get a big enough why behind why you're doing something, because that's part of the fuel that fuels you forward. When your back's against the wall and you got to make something happen, that's when you typically press through the fear to reach the other side. Because that's what it's about. It's not about pretending like fear's not there. It's noticing it and literally walking right up to it and saying, I see you here. I feel you, and I'm not going to accept that because I've got this thing over here that's more important than that little voice of scarcity and fear in my head. And you push through it. And here's how I do it. I do it through monitoring my thoughts. Because once you recognize the fear coming up, and it's a practice. It's not something that happens overnight. Maybe for some people, but it didn't for me. But you start to notice those little fears. And when the fear comes up, that's when you kind of lean away from it, and you can notice it. And then if you give yourself just a few minutes and you notice it for what it is, it's not real, you're making it up, then you can make a new choice. And I even talk to it. I say, I know that you're telling me that what if I fail, or what if this person says this or that, or whatever. And I go, that's not real. I've got this thing I've got to do that's more important, and I'm going to choose something else. And you literally choose a new thought. It takes practice, but it works. And then you take action despite the fear. You notice it, you change the thought, and then you take action anyway. That's exactly what I've done. Let's move on to the next point. Okay? The next point is blame. Oh, this is a big one. I used to be the blame queen, let me tell you. Blame it on, well, I just don't have enough time. I'm a single mom, and, I'm out, working, and I've got to, I'm trying to work, and I've got to take care of these kids and run them here and there, and I've got, this person tugging on me over here, and I could have come up with all kind of blame of why I didn't do something, why I didn't take action. And at the end of the day, I asked myself this question: how bad do I really want this thing? And is it worth making blaming outside sources for why it's not happening, or why I'm not, you're either going to be successful and take 100% responsibility for myself, or not. Which is it going to be? And I realized that I had to drop the blame and the excuses and the fears, all those things, and take 100% responsibility for myself. And that meant I had to make some hard choices. That meant you do something when you don't feel like it, and you get it done anyway. You go from I don't feel like it to done. You go from, well, I don't have time to done. I mean, that's really the only choices that you have. But, while you're doing it, if it's big enough, you're gonna make it happen. You'll let that stuff go. Darlene, you want to share anything about blame?
Oh yeah, blame is such a big piece of anything that you do in life, because it's so much easier to point the finger, right?
Oh, yeah.
You did, it's your fault, or it's because the economy went bad, right?
Yeah.
It happened because we didn't get the word out in time, or it happened because they didn't fulfill their end of the deal. Right? Whatever it is, it's so much easier to throw the blame onto somebody else than it is for us to look inside, look in the mirror at ourselves, and say, how could I have fixed this? What could I have done, or what can I do in the future to prevent this from happening again? Right? So I think that's really what it comes down to. When you take ownership of it versus, letting somebody else do it or blaming somebody else, because honestly, your actions are your own. You are the only one that can decide, what's the best path for you, what's the next logical step for you and your business. Nobody else can make that decision for you. So why would you want to release control in that sense? If you are fully responsible for your own actions, then success is within reach. It's really up to you to make it happen. So that's all I have to say about blame.
Great point on that. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Excuses. Oh boy, here we go.
It's a good one.
I know. I keep thinking about, oh crap, that's me all over. Well, it used to be me. But excuses, is really one of those things. It's either going to get done or you're going to make excuses. I was at that point. I'm either going to be successful or make excuses. I'm either going to make my goals or make excuses. I'm either going to provide for my family or make excuses. And that again, it went back to letting go of the excuses. And excuses actually can hide. They can sneak in on you, and you don't really realize it's an excuse, but it really is. For instance, blaming. Blame can also be kind of correspond with making excuses as well. But that's something that you just have to recognize. And when you notice yourself getting in that mode of making an excuse, you back away from the thought and you observe it. You become the observer, and you go, oh, that was an excuse. Okay, I'm slipping back into that mindset, but it's more important for me to get beyond that. And then you step back into your power. You take your power back. And I know I've said that so many times, but that's being in control of your life. When you're taking 100% responsibility, dropping the fear, blame, and excuses, you're taking your power back. And that's big. That's when you have unstoppable momentum. So, Darlene, you want to talk about excuses?
Oh my God, excuses. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, wish I had, and the excuses that we come up with, it's just amazing to me that it's like this self-talk, this negative side of us that keeps going, well, if we had done this, this would have happened. Or, anytime that you say, oh gosh, I'm really sorry, I was running late, or if, how many times do we have excuses when it comes to putting up stuff on our website? Oh, I didn't have time, or I didn't know how to do it, or my web designer was sick. If it's important enough, we find a way to get it done, right? So I think the excuses really comes down to weighing out, is this something that needs to get done right away? Do we need to have, action taken? And if this person can't do it, who else can I call on? So really, if you go into something and say, no excuses, right? So if you set your mind on something and you set a goal and you want to accomplish it, come hell or high water,
Yeah.
you have to do it. You have to step into the responsibility mode and don't come up with any excuses. Don't rely on a fail-safe, or, always have like a backup plan. That way there you don't have to have excuses. So think one step further ahead, right? Both April and I are visionaries. We can kind of see what's happening and what's coming down the pike. And so we have an ability to almost, I'm not going to say predict the future because nobody can do that. But you can kind of see if this happens and what's going to happen next and what's the next step.
Right.
So you can control it to some degree. And April's 100% right. When you really let go of the blame, the excuses, and all the other things, you really do take back your power. You step into owning your life and your business.
Yeah, because we're powerful creators. And if what's showing up in your life, if you don't like it and you're not making any progress, you created it. However, if you do like it and you are making massive progress and reaching massive milestones, you created that as well. So, I mean, the creation process is thoughts, words, what you speak out loud about those thoughts, and then action, taking action. I mean, that's how we create everything that happens in our life, everything. And it starts with monitoring your thoughts. Because if you have a thought that comes in that is not in alignment with what you want to create in your life, boy, you better get a hold of that quick and go, okay, I'm choosing to change that thought, and you physically change it. You speak something different out loud for what you do want or what you do want to manifest. And you just take action on the new thought. Okay, let's move on to the very last one in this section, which is what blocks progress, and that's perfectionism. And perfectionism really it's really deeply rooted in fear. We could be being perfectionists out of fear of failure, fear of the unknown, fear of not being good enough, fear of not being smart enough. So we come up with a lot of busy work that keeps us busy. We keep changing the website way more times than it needs to be changed. Or we keep rewriting our business plan way more than it needs to be rewritten. It's the times where you create, like I said, the busy work that stops you from doing or taking massive action on the income producing activities or the activities that produce the end result that you're really seeking. Building partnerships. Maybe you're afraid of rejection, so you really don't, you got to build partnerships, you want to, you keep saying you're going to, but you never call anybody, but you never, send out an email to someone or try to, connect, make connections, real connections. So just be aware of it. Again, you monitor, ask yourself, okay, is this really necessary what I'm doing to the degree that I'm doing it? Or is it really me being a perfectionist that is holding me back from taking action on the things that are really most important right now? So it's really just telling the truth and really looking at it and seeing it for what it is. So, Darlene, you want to talk about perfectionism?
Well, let me just start off by saying that I was born a perfectionist.
Yeah.
Not very proud of it, because I've realized that it can really prevent you from moving forward. It was even to the point, I guess you could call it a little ADD, where I couldn't really put something out to the public until it was just right. You know, it had to be exactly the way I had it in my mind's eye. I got to the point where if I wrote an email, I had to reread the email like 2 and 3 times before I would send it out, you know? Um, and I had to learn how to let go of some of those things. In fact, April knows by working with me that I'd rather get a little bit accomplished and out there than none of it done.
Yeah.
So for me, getting, because you can always enhance it later. You can change it or add to it, enhance it, correct it, whatever you need to do. And you got to let go of that perfectionism. A lot of people hold themselves back from ever starting a business because they don't really know what they're going to do, and they're afraid that if they don't do it just right, if they don't have all the pieces of the puzzle put together all at once, then they can't really go forward with it. And I'm here to tell you, you can launch your business today if you want. You don't have to have all the pieces in place before you move forward. So let go of some of that perfectionism. It's okay to have a mistake here and there. It's okay that it's not the right fit, the right size, the right color, the right, the way it might appear, the way it might look. Again, getting it done and going forward. Well, here's a prime example. April and I hosted it was called the Somewhat Famous Global Webcast, and it was an entire week-long program. April and I were brand new to Google Hangouts. I had no idea what we were doing. And, I had to try to figure this out. I have a very strong technical background, so April relies on me to try to figure out all these things.
Thank goodness.
And again, I have to figure out, okay, you don't have to be perfect, you just got to get it done. So, here we interviewed 20 somewhat famous experts. And, even some of the experts were nervous because they weren't really comfortable with it. In fact, we caught one of them. She didn't have any makeup on. She wasn't prepared. And yet we had her, on the air. And I said, you know what? Just be yourself, be authentic, be real. And we can always do it again later if you want to, reshoot this or, do the interview again. And so that was just one of the things. It was a huge success. We had a great experience. In fact, April and I are talking about hosting another somewhat famous global webcast here in March, I believe. I can't remember. We'd have to go back and check our calendar for 2014, which we've mapped out for the whole year. Yes. Which kind of leads us into, talking more to you about those kind of things. So, April, you want to go ahead and take it away?
Sure, yeah, thanks for sharing. I want to move on. We're going to actually talk about what are the 4 primary drivers for motivation. What motivates us? What moves us to take action? I want you to grab a pen and a paper. This is really important. This is really on a humanistic level of what really drives behaviors and taking action. Daniel Pink has got a book that's really great called Drive, and he talks about, some drivers, the things that, based on his research. So it's great. I recommend you check it out. But I want to share with you the 4 drivers that move you to take action. What's going to help you to go from where you are to where you want to be in 2014 and not let up. I mean, you're just going full steam ahead. So this is it right here. I'm going to change the flip chart here. Okay, so as you can see here, number 1 is love and connection. The reason why you do what it is that you're doing. Why do you own your business? You need to be clear on that. Why are you in business? This year, January 2nd, you got to write this down. And if you're listening to the replay, you can certainly start right now where you are. It doesn't matter what date it is. But you need to get really crystal clear on why you're in business. You know, if you're an entrepreneur, author, speaker, coach, why are you doing what you do? And most of the time, people, and I've experienced this in my own life that was very profound. I took a sabbatical at the beginning of last year for 6 months, and I really took some time to go within, and it felt like this spiritual transformation is kind of what I call it, of some realizations. I discovered who I really am and why I do what I do. You know, I got clear on that, and I'm inviting you to do the same thing. And sometimes, like I said before, when people make goals or they say, I want this, I want a nice home and I want to drive a nice car, I want to make $100,000 this year. And one of the things that I did is I took out a sheet of paper and I listed out all of those things on the left of what I wanted. I mean, I just didn't hold back. I just wrote it. And you write things that are, you know, talk about your lifestyle. What lifestyle do you want? Do you want to contribute to a charity that's important to you? Do you want, you know, where do you want to live? How do you want to live? Do you want to go on vacations with your family? Do you want to volunteer your time every year? Whatever that is, you write it down. Then in the middle, you write down what's it going to cost you, because there's a cost: time, money, and energy. Those are the three primary forms of what it's going to cost you to accomplish those things and have what you're writing down. And here's the clincher. On the right side, you write down why. Really, it's the deeper soul level of why you're doing what you do. And here's what's common. Most people write things down like freedom. Freedom to do what I want when I want to do it. Peace of mind. They write that down. People write down be debt-free. You know, there's a lot of different whys. To be happier. So we're really not after the thing, which maybe it's just to use as an example. I'm not saying this is your goal or anybody's goal, but if you write down, I want to make $100,000 this year in my business, in net sales or gross sales. Well, we think that will make us happier, or we think that'll give us more freedom, but really when you increase your business, you know, you have to work more to get that, because those kind of numbers realistically takes a lot of work and effort. But you get to direct your own life. You get to create it. And yeah, if you feel like taking off one day as a business owner, you could take off. So that's freedom too. If you want to spend more time with your family, just get clear on why you're doing it. It's so important. One of the drivers, what drives you to do what you do and to reach the goals that you want to reach, is love and connection. And so one of the things for me personally is I have my children, you know, live in different states, and I actually have 3 children and then 2 grandchildren. And I've told this to Darlene. I wanted to visit my grandchildren that live out of state. One of them does. The other one may soon. I don't know. He lives here now. But that drives me to have a successful business, because I want to be able to do what I want when I want to do it. If I want to get on a plane and go see my grandkids and you know, do some things that are nice for them and take them to an amusement park, or just go down there and visit and get a hotel room and stay for, you know, several days just to spend time with them. I want to be able to do that and not worry about the cost. I want to just go do that. That's one of the drivers that drives me to be successful. So Darlene, you want to talk about love and connection and how that drives you, that motivates you in your life?
Wow, love and connection, really just so powerful, because, you know, I feel as though we're all connected to begin with. So
Yes.
for me, it's so important to extend that that welcoming feeling to everybody that I meet. Um, and you know, I consider everybody a friend. In fact, I wrote recently in the book itself, you know, that April and I are going to be publishing. In one of the chapters, I talked about that. You know, strangers are just friends you haven't met yet, right? So the whole love and connection thing is such a driving force that. It really does. I mean, why do you think I started my own networking organization? Why is it that I love doing social media? Why do I like to speak in front of an audience? Why do I like to, um, you know, get the message out there and form communities? I was telling April, actually earlier this week, that when I was a kid, well, I grew up actually, I was the youngest out of five kids in our family. And everyone was much older than me. Like my brother is 8 years older than me, and then there's 10 years older, and 16, 17 years older than I am. So I was pretty much like an only child in a sense because, of course, they didn't want to play with me because they were off doing their own thing. And, for me, I had to find a way to connect with other people in order to feel loved. And everywhere I went, if I saw somebody by themselves, especially at the playground, I was like, oh, you want to come play in my sandbox? So for me, it was really important to include people. And that brings us to the reason why April and I have really decided to join forces together so that we have our own partnership, but to also lead the whole partnership revolution. And, because we believe it's important that people are together, that they have that love and support, and that the lifetime connection is really so important.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I want you to think about this for yourself, maybe even write it down, what are the top three things that is fueled by love and connection with others for why you're in business, why you do what you do. Maybe it's for others. Maybe you feel your message is so important that it can change lives. That's part of the fuel, which is what we're going to talk about next. But write that down. Just get real clear on that. Are you doing it for your family? You want to create a good life for your family? Are you an entrepreneur because you can work from home part-time or full-time even, but actually have more time with your family? You can actually create that because now you you basically have, control over your life. When you don't have to go to a job and clock in and clock out. And so maybe that's fueling you. So write down what's the things that's founded around love and connection that's driving you to have a business, to be in business, to take action, because that will be one of your drivers. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Freedom. The next point is freedom. And this is people, I think that most all entrepreneurs just hate clocking in and clocking out somewhere. You ever been at a job where you've clocked in and you're looking at your watch and you're going, oh my gosh, 3 more hours? And you're just like counting down the minutes to when you're off. I know I have. That happened way back, And I remember thinking, freedom is one of the primary drivers to direct our own lives, to create our own lives, and to do what you want when you want to do it. I think that's why a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs, one of the reasons they go into business, I know it was for me, is because I wanted to be in control of my life, and I wanted to do what I wanted to do and love what I do. That was another big one for me. I wanted to love what I do, and I wanted to earn a living helping others and making a difference in the world. Darlene, you want to talk about freedom?
Well, let me go ahead and share just sort of a little bit of a story that, well, as I mentioned, I was the youngest of five kids. So my role models were workaholics. So my mom and dad worked all the time in order to, provide for their family. We had a large family, but for back then, and they spent most of their life working long hours for very little money. And as I was growing up, I really watched them struggle. I mean, they really went through some challenging times. They had no time or money to enjoy their life. And, I was so determined to break that cycle and become my own boss. I mean, I knew from a really young age that if I wanted financial freedom, it was only going to happen if I make it happen. So, of course, I worked for several companies, and, I was an employee, And but when the internet started, um, when the internet was starting to catch on, and this was a way that people were getting connected, I was all over this. Okay, I mean, just so that you know, because like I said, I'm a little bit of a geek. I'm a lot of a geek actually. But I've been surfing the net long before there was Windows. Um, Remember the days of DOS, the black screen, and the C prompt? Yes, I was surfing back then, and so I enjoy it a lot. But you know, I knew that there's got to be something that I can do online, and I'll tell you, the turning point for me was the 9/11 tragedy. I was so shocked by everything that had happened, the devastation, and it just really made me realize how short life really is. And if I was going to make a change, the time was now, which was back then. So in 2002 is when I launched my first company. And I had to set up shop in my home office, and I started taking clients immediately. And really, that was the ultimate freedom. But I'll tell you, one of my biggest challenges is that everyone that I knew was still in the mindset that you have to work hard to earn a living. No one could really understand why I put the extra stress on myself and my family and no longer got a weekly paycheck. Well, back then it was every other week. But they didn't have the right mindset to begin with. They didn't have the motivation and the driving factor of, needing that freedom. Because again, it all happened from when I was a little girl, and watching my parents. Literally, I hardly ever saw them. They were always in and out. They were working overtime all the time. So I just wanted to share that little story there with you. But that's my take on freedom.
Thank you. I want to share a quick story because I haven't really done that yet, but this is a personal story. And I wanted my freedom really bad. That's why I'm sharing this in this experience that I had. I'd been working for a company and loved what I did, but I was really struggling to make ends meet. I was a single mom. I started out working for a cosmetic company, a big one, and I was making $6.85 an hour, plus paying daycare for two kids. And I'm no, mathematical genius, but anybody can run the numbers on that. I mean, the numbers were just not really coming together. And I struggled for years. And I kept thinking, well, if I work really hard, I'll get promoted, and then I'll make more money, and I'll have plenty of money, and I'll be finally out of this hole. Because every week I was living paycheck to paycheck, and some weeks I didn't even have enough money to cover this bill, so I'd pay the light bill right before the rent was due, before the landlord come knocking on the door. It was just horrible. And I remember driving home one day, and I worked really hard, and I got my raise, but it was 50 cents per hour. And I thought, oh my gosh, I could be here for the next 20 years, and that's never going to work out. The numbers are I just don't see that, because there was a cap on even what you could make at this company. And they were doing the best they could. That they had budgets, I understood that. I remember driving home one day, and I was crying and praying because I didn't have any money left for groceries that week. I had just paid the light bill before it got shut off. And it had been years, like 5 years of this. Pain and suffering is what it was. And I was driving home, and it gets me choked up thinking about it because I remember, it was horrible. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And I see this I pull up in my car to my home. I lived in a mobile home park on the east side of town. And because that's all I could afford, and I was grateful just to even have a place that I could pay, to live for me and my kids. And there was a box on the front porch. And I thought instantly, maybe the postman delivered it to the wrong place. I'll just take it to my neighbor. I walk up, I look at the box, no postage on it. And I open the box, and inside it was filled with food. And I was just beside myself because in that moment, I felt like I just witnessed a miracle because I didn't know what I was going to do, and I realized that, it must have been my neighbor, because my neighbor owned a vending machine company, and he put all that stuff in there, and there was something that changed me in that moment. I picked up the box, I walked in, and I just had a meltdown. I mean, I just cried my eyes out, and then it turned into anger. And I remember pacing back and forth in my living room, and I was pounding my fist, and I said, never again, never again. I'm going to find a way out of this, and I'm never going to struggle anymore. And that's when I made the decision to take 100% responsibility for my life. I dropped the fear, the blame, and the excuses, and I turned it around. Let me tell you, I changed careers, and I began selling real estate. And in my second, almost 2 years of selling real estate, I won Salesperson of the Year. I sold $9 million in real estate, and I could not believe it. I had earned over a six-figure income net. That's what I brought home. I went from $6 an hour to six figures, and I built my dream home. I just celebrated. I had this deep appreciation for things that are just, the simple things in life, because I've been there. And I knew, as when I took the sabbatical last year and really looked at what's driving me, what's the root of all this. And I feel compelled that I had to teach other people, like pay it forward for everything that I learned, to teach them how they can be successful in life and be successful in their own businesses, because I went through the pain and suffering, and I don't want anybody else to suffer like I did, to the degree that I did. So I thought, I'm not sitting on the sidelines anymore and watching people go through that when I know certain strategies that work, because I've done it in my own life and my own business. So that's part of the fuel, that freedom that I wanted for myself and the freedom I want for others. So that's part of why I do what I do. So anyway,
Wow.
we've got 2 more points. I know we're getting close to the end time here. So, all right.
Wait.
Yeah.
April, I just want to say thanks for sharing that. You really just, you became very vulnerable there for a few minutes. You shared something that was so personal, and that means a lot to me, and I'm sure a lot of the other viewers are also, they can relate, they understand, what you've gone through, and especially now with such challenging times all around us, and everybody, trying to find a way to earn a living, and, the struggles that we all face. You're an inspiration for a lot of us, so just want to say thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I kept that in I haven't really actually publicly shared that, but who cares? This is 2013.
2014.
14, excuse me. Okay, so now I want to talk about the next driver that drives us, to motivates us to take action, is growth. Is we really want to, as human, one of the 6 human needs is growth, and that has to do with self-mastery. We're always looking to better ourselves and reach the next milestone, and if you're not growing, you're dying. And people, human beings by nature, have this internal need and desire to constantly grow and push themselves to the next level and learn something new and try it and keep growing and gaining momentum. That's one of the big drivers, is your own personal growth and mastery, that you want to continue to grow in your life and build upon your skills and reach new heights, reach new milestones. That's part of why we do what we do and what makes us do what we do. Darlene, you want to talk about growth?
Oh, this is one of the things that everybody should be doing. I mean, you constantly need to be, feeding your mind, feeding your soul, and advancing and growing. And if not, you're going to stay in the same place, at the same, the same kind of routine. You're going to get stuck in a rut. So it's really important that you expand your horizons. And in fact, each year I set out to learn something brand new, so that I can kind of keep accumulating and growing. It's almost like I'm back in school. I'm self-taught.
Yeah, Darlene and I are both life students. We actually go out and pay for high-end training and coaching ourselves, because our mission is to be the absolute best that we can be and stay ahead of the curve, be in the future, we're both of us are fueled by futuristic concepts and our beliefs, and we want to be the best that we can for the people that want to work with us, and for delivering just content like this for you all. that's important to us, and we want to keep growing as human beings. You probably do the same. So here's the last point, which is one of the drivers of true motivation, and it's contribution. Contribution is, one of the 6 human needs. And again, it drives us to take action for doing what we do. There's something inside all of us that wants to contribute to something greater than ourselves. For me, I just told you my story, is I knew that I was no longer going to I couldn't sit back and watch people struggle or try to figure out the piece of the puzzle when I knew the answer. I had to get in there and I had to show them. That's why if you do something and you could work for free, you know that that's part of your calling in life. There's something about that that's pulling you towards that. So anyway, contribution is a big part of, motivating you to take action. Darlene, you want to talk about motivation
Mhm.
and contribution?
Well, motivation, contribution, I guess that's the reason why I started, the accomplished coach, practice and really coaching others, because I want them to contribute more to the world. I want them, the people that I work with, I want them to create and leave behind their own legacy. I believe it's really important that you leave little footprints, in a sense, all over the place. And, one of the things I used to share with April before is, as you grow and enhance yourself, your business, your life, and the more accomplishments that you make, I think it's important that you pay it forward and you lift as you climb. Right, so you reach back and pull someone up with you, and I used to actually I used to mentor quite a few people years ago. And well, now I do more coaching. I still mentor, some women here and there, and I speak, for free and contribute to my local community. I try to help as much as I can when it comes to that. But I think true contribution comes from the soul. I think it's deep down inside, and I think we're all born to give, and we ultimately receive in the big cosmic sense, but I just think that it's important for us to always look at how we can give back.
Great. Yeah, that's so true. That's a good point. And I think by human nature, we naturally look for that. We look for ways that we can contribute. And I just want to share something deeply personal with you real quick before we go, is your knowledge, your inspiration, what you've gone through in your life, or whatever that is, something that that somebody else over here doesn't, and they're trying to figure it out, and the answer. I feel like it's part of your calling and your mission in life to get out there and teach people, to show them what to do, to give them the missing piece that they've been searching for. It's how we're called to serve others in the world. And several years, right before I went through that experience, I read a book, my first self-help book, and that was the catalyst to totally changing my life. So if you've got a book inside you, maybe it's an article you're about to write, maybe it's a business you're about to start, people are silently watching you, and you are inspiring them without you even knowing it. They're taking mental notes about everything you do. What you're doing is causing them to get something burning inside them to want to do something else. I read a book, Les Brown's book, Live Your Dreams. First book I ever read all the way through, cover to cover, period. And it was a turning point. His story that he talked about what happened to him inspired me to want to change my life. And I kept reading and I kept searching and I started studying reading other books and learning from millionaires and things like that. That's how it slowly progressed into, having the success that I've had in my life. And what I'm here to tell you is that your message has the power to change someone's life, literally make it completely different than if they never heard your book, read your book, heard your speech, read your blog post. You have the power to change people's lives, and with your knowledge and your expertise. So I guess we're going to wrap up our time. Wow, time's flown by really fast. But, the whole point of having this live hangout with us today is to talk about unstoppable momentum in 2014. So I invite you to do a self-analysis, determine where you fell short last year, celebrate where you had some big wins. Don't forget that. That's important too. Pat yourself on the back. Go celebrate. And then get yourself back on track. And the way that you do that is you need to create and get real crystal clear on what your internal drivers are. The drivers that drive us to take massive action towards our dreams and goals is you got to have a big enough why that makes it a must. That it must happen. I must reach this goal. I must get to this milestone. And until you do that, you're going to flounder around and maybe get into fear and excuses and blame and perfectionism. So get your must. It's a big enough why. And then what's going to help fuel that is get clear on the love and connection piece. Get clear on your contribution. Why are you doing this? Is it what kind of contribution? What about is it that helps you with your growth as a human being? And also, what else is going to help you to take the action? Because you can learn everything you can learn, you can start the business, but if you don't take consistent action regularly, it's never going to work out. You're never going to be able to reach your goals. That's the critical piece. Darlene, you want to close up? Say anything else?
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you to everyone who has joined us for our very first hangout with April and Darlene. Make sure you tune in. We'll be back again next Thursday. If you missed this replay, or if you missed the actual live hangout, you can always go back to our website, which we encourage you to go visit and take advantage of our free gift. And you just go to our website, innovateandaccomplish.com, and make sure you share the love. Tell your friends about us. Let them know what's going on. We want to have a huge crowd of people around because we want to be able to help inspire and uplift as many people as we possibly can. So we need your help to get the word out about our weekly, hangout with April and Darlene. So again, I just want to say thank you. I know 2014 is just going to be your best year ever. So thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for tuning in.